Hey, John Bracamanis here with Acumen Studio. I was actually doing some things downtown here in St. Louis, so I decided to jump into the office, do some work, and I wanted to make this video to talk about the things you're going to encounter if you're going to migrate from Google Analytics, the UA version, to the new GA4, so Google Analytics 4, as it relates to events and setting up new conversion points inside of Google Analytics 4. Now, there's a whole thing on that, on how to set it up with data streams, and there's a lot of new things. It's evolved. When it first came out, it was more difficult. Now they're creating more tools to make it a little bit easier to set up and to migrate over, but still you run into a few issues. And I'm just going to flip the camera over here to show you some of the things that we've encountered as we've developed our process on how we create it new, how we migrate those who have existing Google Analytics accounts, and how you get that set up in Google Analytics 4. So we've been doing that for everyone that we work with and everyone new that comes on, because in the summer of next year, the sessions are going to stop counting. It's not going to function as it does today later in July of next year, so it won't start counting that. So for us, we do a lot of year-over-year comparisons, and so we need the data from this year as we move into the next year. So we needed to make sure that those accounts existed for all the customers that we work with and everyone that we move forward with, because then once we get to next year, we'll have year-over-year data, like a full set of year-over-year data. So that's why it was important for us. So again, I'm going to flip the camera over here. We're going to look at Google Analytics and Google Analytics 4, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So let me switch screens here, and I'm in the back end on Google Analytics regular, so the UA as you probably use it today. So this is inside of Acumen. Now, I'm just on the home screen. I'm not going to look at any specific reports, but I will go into the admin section and show you something. So when you go into the admin section, typically if you were going to set up goals, you would do it here. You would go into the goal section, and you have the ability to create up to, on a free version and not the premium version of analytics, you have the 10 goals that you, or the 20 goals that you can set up. And so there's a number of things here that are in our account that you can ignore here. We've got several accounts that we use, but you set it up here, right? Now I'm going to move back out of this view so that you can see some other things here. So you can see that you've got property settings, blah, 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 blah here in the property version, but then you'll notice this, the GA4 Setup Assistant. So now GA4 Setup Assistant, if you do not have a Google Analytics 4 account, this will be here in your regular analytics account. And if I click into the Setup Assistant, it wants to ask you if you need to do a couple things. Number one is I want to create a new Google Analytics 4 property. So if you do not have that, you can click Get Started, and it's going to take you through the steps. It's going to create that property for you, and there's things you can do from there. Now, I'm not going to show that, because if you go through that, it's going to set you up. It's going to give you that account, and there's a whole nother set of things that you need to do to create that. That's for a different time, different video, and there's a lot out there on this, on how to actually set it up. But if you want to connect the existing Google Analytics 4 property, that's what we've done here. And we can select that. So we have that, and we can connect these properties. Now I'm going to go through and show you into this next step. Now I'm telling you, we have Google Tag Manager set up as well. We've got a number of things created for our websites, our properties that we use for measurement, tracking, and doing our marketing. But if I click Connect Properties, aha, look at that. You've successfully connected it. Fantastic. Right? And then it says go to your GA4 property. So I'm going to click into that, because now it's saying I'm connected. And when I click that, this is opening up a new window, but I could choose to click here and go into the other view, because we do have it visible already connected to these accounts. So this is your new GA4 property. It says you've got this Setup Assistant. Now, I'm going to scroll down, because where I'm at inside of Google Analytics 4 is in that same admin setting area. So you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, the reports are different over here for Google Analytics 4, but in that admin section down here, if you click into it, it looks similar, but you've only got the 2 columns instead of the 3 that you saw in the UA version of Analytics. Now, you've got all this stuff here. If I go into Setup Assistant, this is what I was just viewing a second ago. Advanced setup, linking Google Ads, setup conversions. Now, I've already got this set up. You can see some of them are already here. We created some of those. And from within this view, you will go ahead and create that. Now, you can import them. So, for example, you're in this window now. We've already connected them. We've already gone through that section, but from here, you're going to be able to import the conversions connected to your other account if you choose to do that. Now, we have done that. We tested that with a number of different accounts and found that when we imported it, it didn't 100% work. So, for example, simple conversions that we have on our website is, and I'm going to move back to the regular UA and show you those conversions. Simple conversions like, let's get out of here, go to the goals, and any thank you page submission, for example. The details of that, we'll have thank you pages that say literally thank you, and in this case, they all start with thank something. Thank you for blank. Thank you something landing page, right? So as long as it has this in it, we count that as a conversion because we know that they landed on this destination that had thank in it. So that, for example, is a goal we use. Now, this is regular expression. When we imported that into GA4, we found that the regular expression goals we had created like this did not work. They would be there. They would import successfully, but they would never track successfully in Google Analytics 4. We had to set it up manually. Same with click-to-call goals. So we have, now you're not seeing it here. Again, this is a different property. We set up click-to-call goals that we'll create inside of Google Tag Manager. So for example, click-to-call conversion in GA4, we had to set this up on its own to be able to track inside of Google Analytics 4. It would not migrate over. So if I click into this as an example, if you've done any work inside of Google Tag Manager, you'll know that sometimes it's complex, sometimes it's not. Now, luckily, Google Analytics 4 events have their own module within Tag Manager. And so within this, you can see we've got some things set up. So if I click into it, it's going to be a GA4 tag. We gave it a name, phone call conversion, but then the event parameters that we're passing through, we're looking at the click URL, we're looking at, we have click URL and page URL, essentially the same thing. We were just making sure it was in there, double checking or double ensuring. And forget these other settings here. The big important thing on this is that, okay, we're looking to the URL is what we're doing, and then the click to call just links. This is what's important. This is the trigger. We have a click to call conversion trigger that we created, and now I'm popping out of that. But basically, let me move back. Click to call conversion. We've got a specific tag here, references this trigger, contains TEL, so you can see that it's just a link click, and if that link that we have contains TEL colon, which is the parameter for a click-to-call phone link. So if there's a phone number and it has ahref equals quotes TEL dot, and then you have the phone number in it, it's going to attempt to make a phone call. Even if you're on a browser, it will. But in your phone, 100% it will. Make sure it goes to the phone and calls it. So when that's clicked, if a link includes that, if any link on the website includes this, then it triggers this tag, the click to call conversion, and it will pass this information through. So we have that inside of GA4. So then inside of GA4, that conversion event, that event gets tracked. Now, once you're inside of GA4, you have to tell it to be a conversion. So if I go into, so you've got reports, right? You can go look at these reports. If I go into configure a little further down, you're going to be able to see these conversions. Now, there's events here, right? And you see these different events that are popping up. Now, there's a ton of events that they just track on their own. So if you create a Google Analytics 4 account, it's going to have a bunch of events that you are tracking. But you can see, for example, phone call click conversion. This is now whatever the view is that this is looking at. There isn't any that are showing up here, but it's visible because they've taken place and it shows up. And then you can come over here and mark it as a conversion. So in these cases, all these are events that are being tracked, but you actually have to tell Google Analytics 4 in this case that you want to view this as a conversion. So we have this in the thank you page conversion that we have created, the phone call click conversion that we have marked as conversions, but they're technically just events. So if we come over here into conversions, that's a different view. This is a different view on what that is. But again, they show up here because we've marked them as conversions from their events section. So that, what this whole thing was about is the issues that you're going to run into. The issue that you'll run into using that migration tool is that it's highly likely they will not work. In our experience, 90% of the conversions that we converted over from existing UA, Google Analytics accounts, did not work, and we had to recreate them manually inside of Google Analytics 4, which in some cases you need to use Tag Manager, in other cases you don't. And again, this video is not to show you how to set up and create conversions inside of GA4, but you can see it here. I can say, let's create an event, and I can have some parameters. Like in this case, this is popping up for us, where the page location contains the thank, just like you saw in UA, Google Analytics, but it's different. If I click into this, there's parameters, and you have to know what this is. And in this case, like if you don't have a list of them on your own, you've got to Google it, and you'll go into a developer section. They have a list of all these different parameters. And in this case, the parameter that we're looking at is page location, which is equivalent to the URL. And then we're saying it must contain the word thank inside of that. So, if you write a blog post that says Happy Thanksgiving, this may not be the way you want to do it. we don't. So it's not an issue for us here. But we set this up so when it triggers, we're able to then go into that event and mark it as a conversion. Now, I'm going to come over here and click create. And if I go to click create, it wants me to set up something new. So the event name is just telling me I need to change it, right? Event name equals something. And that value might be something that you pass in from Tag Manager, or you have, the event, the parameter contains, and in this you add the condition. So if I start typing, you can see things are popping up. I just blanked it out here, and they've got a list of things that you can choose from. But unless you know what these are, it's difficult to create this, unfortunately, unless you Google it and see what the parameters actually mean. So that is something that's completely separate, but did want to say that it's highly likely that if you go to import a UA conversion or event into your GA4 property, it probably will not work, unfortunately, and you'll have to create that manually. So I just want to give you that heads up, give you a warning. Hopefully that was helpful. And but again, any other questions that you have, send them our way, because we'd love to help you on this if you do need help. But just be aware. But no worries, because it's doable, it's fixable, and not saying it's easy, because you got to understand it, but it's easy to remedy. It's easy if you get the direction. It's easy if you find out and make it work. It's not going to not work. Let's put it that way. So again, John here at Acumen Studio. Thanks so much for checking this out. Hope it was helpful, and reach out if you have any questions. Thanks so much.